once again, and welcome to Pages Promotions Indie Reads TV. I am your host, Diana Catherine Plopa, and today I am so excited. We've got somebody super special in the studio with us today. This is going to be a great episode because I have the opportunity to share a brand new experience with somebody who's doing it for the first time. So this is debut indie author, Chelsea Gouin. I'm so excited to have you here. I think this is just going to be a blast.
I'm pretty excited to be here.
I am super, super excited that you're here today. We're going to have a good time. So, oh my goodness, look at me pushing the wrong buttons. Okay, there we go. See, I'm so excited I can't even pay attention to what I'm doing.
Right.
Just let me get refocused. Okay. So I'm really, really happy to have you with us because this is a rare opportunity for us to get to see the process from the very, very beginnings.
Yeah.
You're a brand new author. You haven't done this before. Everybody else I've had on the show up until now, they've done this one or two times before.
Yeah.
So this is going to be fun getting it from your brand new
Right.
perspective, which is all sorts of fun. So first of all, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, yeah. What made you start to decide you wanted to write? What was the thing that said, I got this story, it might actually be a book. How did that happen for you?
Well, I've actually been writing since I've been 7 years old, I remember. And it's always just kind of been one of those pipe dreams, I want to be an author. And then, of course, when you get a little bit older, they make you pick a real career.
You must declare a major.
Exactly. Actually, but it was in college that a professor of mine, Professor McClotsky, told me that I might have a talent with it and I shouldn't just think of it as just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started being a little bit more serious about it and really started sharing my stuff with other people. And actually meeting you in your bookshop is what made it a reality. You were one of the first people to ever read something that I wrote, and you were like, hey, this is pretty good. Do you ever think about publishing it? And I was floored.
Well, I've always believed that it's important to nurture brand new writers. I believe that there has to be a modicum of talent, and there has to be desire, and there has to be skill. You have to have all three of those components to make it work, and you certainly had all three of them. You were just a little tentative about it.
Right.
You were just maybe, I don't know. So, I got to talk about this book. This is The Midnight Man, and I'm so excited for you. This is your brand new baby. We're birthing it at the end of this month.
Yes.
It's 3 weeks away it's going to come out.
It's still very surreal. Even looking at the picture, seeing my name on the byline is just, it's pinch me, is this real?
Well, this was a fun book to work with you on. I really loved reading it. And I know your editor, Connor Matthews, had a great time working with you as well.
It was amazing to work with both of you, actually. When Connor read it for the first time, things that I had thought I had cleverly written in, he picked up on them right away. And that was my moment of, wait, maybe I'm not so bad at this.
Well, look, validation.
Right. Well, then it's things that I threw in that aren't essential. If you don't pick up on them, it's not essential. It's just a fun little string of a side plot, subplot. And Connor picked up on it right away.
I hate the term Easter egg, but that's really kind of what you were doing with this.
Yes.
Some little hidden gems along the way, and if you're paying attention, you'll watch some things develop that maybe less paying attention people won't.
Exactly.
So tell me about your process. Each one of us has this methodology to the way we work. I've said before on this program, I'm very much an outliner. I do everything. I organize what I'm doing from start to finish, and because I'm a hole filler,
Right.
I like to say, okay, this is where I'd like the story to go. Now let's fill in the holes. Because I work on several projects simultaneously. So tell us a little bit about your process as a first-time author.
I actually really like writing about local legends and urban legends and myths. So a lot of it is, you just happen to stumble upon an article on Facebook or on the internet, and then something about the story will stick with me. And then suddenly, I am going to Google and looking up more information on these legends and ghost stories in particular. and then I'll see things. It's like a picture in my head, and it was very much the same with the Midnight Man. It was I saw actually a scene with Charlie, and then I was like, who is this girl? What is she doing with a candle? Where are we going with this? And then unfortunately, I am not as organized as you. I'm a little bit more of a chaotic writer, and scenes come to me in random orders. And again, it's always a picture, so it's let's get this picture on paper, and let's find out where this goes in.
Sure. Yeah. How does it fit to the whole scheme of the story?
Exactly.
And, there's absolutely nothing with being a little bit of a chaotic writer. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Good.
Because that's the great thing I love about literature is that everybody approaches the process differently,
Right.
and we all end up with this book, which people then get to read, which I find fascinating. The end result of the process for me is always the most fascinating part, but this is not like math or music where everybody has to follow the same steps. As you saw working with Connor,
as I'm learning.
everything can be done ad hoc or however it's most
totally.
comfortable for you, which I love the process for that.
It was actually when I thought I was almost done with the book that all of a sudden I saw another character. I'm like, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Why are you all of a sudden here? What am I going to do with you?
Isn't it nice when your imaginary friends jump up and talk to you?
But I saw her so vividly in a scene. I was like, now I have to go all the way back. I have to add her in because she can't just show up at the end.
Can't just have her appear out of nowhere. You have to actually build that background for her.
Oh, yeah. And I've always been very much into character. Even like when I read books, it's very much character driven for me.
Okay. So, Midnight Man.
Yeah.
I love the title. I had terrific fun designing this cover for you. This was a lot of fun.
You did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah, it was super fun.
It gives me all the right feelings. As soon as I looked at it, I'm like, this is the vibe that I want people to get when they look at it. A little bit mysterious, a little bit spooky.
So we have to say this is a horror
Yes.
/ paranormal.
Yes.
I like to say it has elements of both genres in it. I don't think
Yes.
it's a cut and dry one or the other. So give us a little bit of the synopsis of this little gem here.
Well, it is based on the urban legend of the Midnight Game, which started off as a creepypasta. And
Okay, wait a second. For our readers and viewers at home who
Yes.
don't know what creepypasta is, for me, creepypasta is noodles that don't hold on to their cheese.
Scary noodles.
That's a little, scary noodles. So explain a little bit about what that is.
Creepypasta is basically a forum where people share stories and urban legends. A lot of myths have their start there, including the Slender Man, which has recently gained a lot of popularity in the horror community. So it's basically a forum, and that is how I stumbled across the Midnight Man. A friend of mine actually mentioned it, and when reading up on it, reading these comments on it, I was like, this is good. There was enough wiggle room in the story and the legend, in the original legend, that I'm like, I can play with this. I can play with.
So tell us a little bit. What's okay? I always do this. Tell me about your book, but don't give it away.
Right.
So what's
basic-
the basic plotline of the book?
Right. The basic plot line is a young woman is going away to film school, and it's across the state. So she decides to have a farewell party with her friends. There's some tension with the friend group, of course, as there is. And as a bit of fun, they're like, let's play this game that we found online. But then they summon the Midnight Man.
Who is demon-esque.
Yes, he's a demonic
We can't
entity.
really call him demonic because that would...
We don't know what he is.
Yeah, we don't know what he is. That's the
Right.
great thing I love about this book. As I was reading through it to do the last stage of edits, we don't... He's just spooky.
Yes.
He's not real definitive, which is one of the elements I loved about the story.
Thank you.
This was definitely an edge-of-your-seat kind of story. So they play this game.
Yes. Game. We will use that term lightly.
Right. And then...
The premise of the game is that they have to survive from midnight till 3:33 in the morning. 3:33 is, the devil's number, 666 and a half.
Okay.
So they have to wander around the house with no lights, using only a candle as light, and they have to avoid being caught by the Midnight Man. And according to the legend, he'll play up on your biggest fears. Then there's also a bit of the legend where it was used as a pagan ritual to make people suffer their greatest sins.
Okay.
So, like I said, it was creepy, and there was enough like fun, and it's that unknown element because everybody's afraid of something.
Yeah. Well, and there was just enough. My camera is not responding. There we go. So there was just enough of the online game to kind of give you a blueprint, and then you got to fill in the holes and make it your own,
Oh yeah.
right?
And of course, other people have played the game. If you go on YouTube, there's people playing the Midnight Game. Spoiler alert, nothing ever happens in these YouTube videos.
Well, rats.
But right. But still, like, you can see the kids having fun, and you're wandering around a dark house with a candle. Like, it's that.
But I love what you did with it. You took it to the next level. What if?
Right. Like, what
Which
if it's
really
real?
made it a lot of fun.
Right, and that's a lot of things I like to explore in writing is that what if it is real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if you did tempt something demonic or something paranormal? And it's
Right.
that gray area, and I love playing in that field.
Sure. So I don't want to give too much away, but there are some well-crafted, gruesome scenes
Yes.
in this book. I'm not normally a fan of the gruesome, but you handled it really well. You kind of skirted that line between, okay, I need to go throw up now, and okay, tell me more, right? There's like a line in between there. What made you decide to move it to that gruesome level instead of just keeping it eerie? What was the thing that made you decide, I'm going to push this a little bit further to that edge?
Originally, I did actually have a lot of more fade to black endings in there, but the gruesome aspect came in just the tension didn't feel right. I was like, I felt like the tension was building and then it just didn't go anywhere, and I wanted that release of tension.
Okay.
And that release of tension was gore, I guess.
When in doubt, blood.
Right, exactly. And again, it was just things like, this is gonna sound very uncomfortable, but things that I saw in my head, and I was like, yep, I see a little bit of blood here. I see a little bit of chaos and destruction.
Well, better that you see it in your head than create it in the real world, right? I mean, we would much rather you keep your imagination,
It's just
pretend.
just fun in writing.
So, talk to me a little bit about, from the perspective of a first-time author, what was this process like for you? I mean, I've done 6 books now, so for me,
Right.
even though I might use the phrase old hat, it's new every time.
Right.
Right. But I kind of forget what that initial novice approach is. What was going on with you as you were bringing this book closer and closer to done, and then having this amazing cover? I mean,
I love it.
so take me from, okay, I'm going to write, to, oh, this amazing cover.
I don't think like it ever stopped being exciting. It just, the excitement changed as it went along.
Okay.
I really was overwhelmed when it was when we first sat down and talked about publishing it, and it was this, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. But, you and Connor, my editor, have been like so amazing. Not only that, but all the indie authors that I've met along the way have been so supportive, and it's really like a team. Like, I felt like, there's my cheerleaders, and
That is one of the things I love most about this community is that
Exactly.
everybody is so supportive of everyone else.
oh yeah.
It's rare that you find an apathetic indie author.
Right.
Very rare.
Right. I mean, everybody has been so supportive. Even like people, we were at the book festival, and people have never met indie authors, and I, of course, was so excited. I'm like, guys, my editor just read my book, and then like, oh, that's great. Everybody was super supportive, and that was amazing. I've never seen that in any other community than the indie author community.
We're a little odd that way.
Yeah, but
it's a good
odd. See, we're already on the same page.
So, talk to me about the editorial process. This, give us a little behind the scenes. This is something most people don't get privy to. So,
Right.
how did that process work for you?
Of course, it was very nerve-wracking sending out, something which is a passion project. Anything I think that you're putting out in the world, your art is a passion project.
Sure.
But Connor was so sweet, and he knew exactly, I think, how to phrase things for me. So, seeing like his words of encouragement at the very end, saying like, "Oh, this was actually really good," and I was like, "Oh, that's good to know."
Oh, look, more validation.
Right, and it was very much again, like he picked up on the plot that I was my Easter eggs, as you called it, that I was trying to string forward, and he goes, "If this is what you're trying to do, then you might have missed a step here." And he found the holes, I guess you could say, and he's, instead of saying like this is what you need to do, he said, "Well, what if we do this?" And there was one scene I was very stuck on, and we both agreed it needed to change completely, like complete revamp, and I just told him like, "I'm at a brick wall, I need help." And he goes, "Well, I'm not going to write it for you, but let's brainstorm together." And it was really neat that like he understood my characters enough that we could sit there and be like, "Well, is this something Charlie would do?" I don't think so.
So that you enjoyed that collaborative aspect of the process.
It's just another member of the team.
So I know that there are a lot of authors who can sometimes feel intimidated by that collaborative thing where you have to meet somebody else's expectations and throw your own out the window. How did that work for you? Did you ever feel like you had to abandon what your original thought was? And if you did, was it a good thing?
Right. Connor, like I said, was just very supportive, and I think that helped.
Yeah.
Maybe I just got lucky that I got a great editor.
He's a great editor.
There was one part that I kind of was like unsure about, and he goes, "Well, let's just tweak like something else and see if that helps build it up." Because I told him like, "I'm pretty sure this is where I want Endgame to be. How can I get it there so it makes it a little bit more smooth?" And like, so that's what he goes, "Well, if that's the case, let's tweak 3 pages back to try to get here." So it was really neat that I think he listened to me, and he knew like, this is your baby. I'm just here to make your baby succeed.
Oh, how nice.
Yes.
It's really nice to know that somebody on my team is that supportive. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
cool thing. I knew that about Connor, but it's nice to hear from somebody
I never
else.
felt like, he was trying to make me uncomfortable or trying to do something that I wasn't comfortable with. It was very much, how can I help you?
So
And let's work together.
So let me ask you, the end result now, you have the e-galley.
Yes.
You know what the book's going to look like.
Yes.
So did it turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out?
No.
Okay, how? How is
Just-
it different from what you imagined initially?
Well, this has always been a pipe dream, so I guess I never really, like, even looking at it on the computer, I was like, this is my book. Like, this is real.
It has page numbers.
Right. When you had formatted it into, like, this is what's going to look like on the page, there was suddenly, like, a footer and, like, really cool things with the text. And it was like, now that the baby's here, let's dress it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, like, just, again, so surreal and, like, exciting.
So... I love this cover. This came from you, by the way. This was all your idea. I just took your input and your concept, and I made it happen for you.
Like any creative project I try to put my mind to.
I think it's fabulous. I think it came out just beautifully. So this is going to come out just before Halloween.
Yes.
We're very excited about that. Release
Yes.
date just before Halloween. Here's your first endeavor. You got something else in the works?
Yes, actually. A friend of mine we had been working on this story about Morrow Road, which is a haunted road in Elginak.
Okay.
And again, it's a very vague legend, and we have been having so much fun with it all these years, but then we kind of like shelved it. And now that I've done this, I think it's time to revisit.
So is that going to be a bigger project?
Oh yeah, it's a lot longer than The
Okay.
Midnight Man is, because The Midnight Man is actually a novella
Yes.
in length.
Yep.
So Morrow Road is much more. It also takes place back in the 1800s, so it's a little bit more historical.
Oh, that's fun. So you get to do a little bit of history research, and
Yes.
is that a part of the process that you're looking forward to, is doing more of
Oh,
that
yeah.
in-depth research part? I know a lot of authors who love research. There are very
Right.
few that I know that don't like research.
Right.
Is that part of the process that you enjoy as well?
Yeah, actually, I've met a lot of people because it's a different brand of people that I'm looking at now. I'm looking at historical societies, and I've already been in contact with Elginak Historical Society about sitting down and going through some of their archives.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm really looking forward to it.
So you're doing horror
Yes.
paranormal kind of thing. Do you see this as the only genre you're going to dip your toes in, or you think are there some other genres that might tickle at your imagination a little bit?
I think for now I'm gonna stick with horror paranormal. That's just kind of where I'm being pulled. I think there's
Okay.
the millions of projects that I have, filed away in my brain.
As we all do.
Of course, it's all paranormal and horror, and I think it's fun. I think it's fun to be scared, and I hope I can make that enjoyment come out to other people.
You've been a part of our writing group for a little while now. Talk about that process or that experience. Has it been a positive experience for you? Has it been a negative experience, or which? I mean, like, describe a little bit about how writing group. I know a lot of authors, they like writing groups. I know a lot of authors that like to work in complete solitude.
Right.
So what's your approach, and does a group feed you or detract?
I very much had a positive experience with this writing group. I think it helps that it's small, and then our location's at a Panera Bread. So I think that really helps because it's a tight-knit group. You get that positive energy.
Cookies are important.
Cookies and hot cocoa are right there. So you got the great writing fuel.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, I think it's part of that community and that little like teamwork. And you're like, here's your team sitting right next to you, and you can cheer each other on. And, I've had a couple days that I'm like, I'm just not feeling like writing. But then, you look over and you see Chuck, like, typing away. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to compete. Like, I can't let Chuck know that I'm slacking.
Yeah, it's that accountability factor, I think,
exactly,
is a really positive aspect of a writing group. And that's part of why I started this. Part of it was I needed to get away from the house. As you know, we call it Pros Procrastinators Anonymous.
Yes.
I needed to get away from the house and do things,
right.
Away from the things that pulled me away from writing. But then I discovered when you write in community, there's this energy.
Oh, it is.
At least for me, there's an energy that seems to surround the group and feed your process, even if your process is research.
Right. Oh, no, I feel exactly the same way. Again, it's that community aspect, and it's, we're all here doing the same thing. Like, how neat is that?
Yeah, yeah. So your book comes out soon. Do you have any plans of how you're going to birth it?
No.
Do you have any ideas of what you'd like to do? This is your opportunity to say, in a utopian world, I would like to have my book presented to the world this way. How do you imagine that in your head?
I think, to do some kind of like a book launch, like, if we're using the analogy of a baby, like, this can be the christening.
Yeah, right. The naming ceremony, we call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it'd be neat just to have a book launch and just because I've met so many of these indie authors, and, we're at so many different walks of life, to have, like, one solid time, like, yeah, here it is, guys. Here's what I've been working on for so long.
I often equate a book launch party to a wedding. It's one of those things that you're planning your book launch before you've even finished the first draft.
Right.
Especially for women. We're always planning that for that big day event. Has that been something that's been in your head? Or has this been too surreal or unknowing of a project for you to even think that far ahead?
I think every now and then I get that, like, idea of, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have all my friends, my family there, like, celebrating something that I did. Like, and again, this has been like a dream. I never really have thought of it as a reality until now. So I think it would just be nice to be like, yep, we made it. We did it.
Yeah.
Professor McCloskey, she passed away, unfortunately, but, this is for you.
Yeah, I remember when I was working on my first book, my memoir. I went out and bought a feather ink quill and a thing of ink, and I thought, my first signing event, I'm going to sign with this quill and ink. It's still sitting in the cupboard. I never pulled it out because you get so wrapped up in the excitement of the event that you forget that you had all these little things,
cool things
planned to do. So someday I'll use the quill, but
my best friend bought me an ink pen. She goes, for your first book signing.
How nice.
Yes, and so I do have friends outside of the writing community that are
We all
supportive,
do.
of course. Just throwing it out there so they don't feel neglected.
So is there anything that you would change about the process you went through? And feel free to be negative, because that's okay.
Right.
I can take criticism just like everybody else. But is there anything about the process that you anticipated would happen one way and you were kind of disappointed that it didn't happen, and you'd kind of like it to be what you had in your head?
I mean, I think you guys are perfect, so I have no complaints about you guys.
I don't know about perfect, but...
Well, it was perfect for me as a new author. I felt very much, I felt comfortable. And I said it was, very surreal, but then you guys helped keep me grounded, and, the deadlines, I think, really helped. So I guess for going forward, my next project, I'd like to, I guess, stick to my own writing deadlines, maybe give myself a little bit more pressure. Because Connor, he was off in Greece for a while, and so we had a very odd schedule for a while. Like after the first draft, I had maybe 4 weeks before I had to send it to him. But then I had like 2 for the next one. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know how to pace myself. So I think that would be something I would change, is my pacing. Because I got spoiled with that 4 weeks. I was like, oh, I got 4 weeks.
I got time.
I got time.
So is that, if you had a piece of advice to give to a novice author, would that be one of those things? And let me just ask you the question directly. If a brand new author came to you and said, I'm thinking about publishing, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? How would you respond to that?
I think setting small, I'm a special ed teacher, so let me use some knowledge from my craft.
Sure.
Is making small measurable goals for yourself. It's unrealistic to say, I'm going to write 6 chapters by the end of the week. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Sure.
But saying, I'm going to write at least a page this week. Just so you're always working on it and it's always there. And that's how you're going to reach your goal of, by the end of the month, I want to write, a chapter of the book. That's more how to do it than putting too much pressure on yourself. It's just being realistic.
Sure, yeah. Do you find that when you're setting those goals, I hear you say chapter, I hear you say page. Is that how you measure your goals rather than time spent? For me, it's time spent. For me, it's Monday. I write Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Thursday nights every week. Whether I do 1 page, whether I do 60 pages, whatever I do, I have to spend time those nights. Do you measure it the other way?
I usually measure by pages, and I think that started with that November, that NaNoWriMo.
NaNoWriMo, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what got me in the habit of pages or word count.
Sure.
I just recently, in this process, learned about word count and how important it is. So now I'm going to be looking more about word count than pages, but it definitely is you can write a page. A page is doable. I mean, my BA was in English, so I'm writing all those essays. It was you can crank out a page.
Easy.
Right.
We are all out of time. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited for your book. I think it's going to be a blast.
Thank you.
And when you finish the next project, I hope you'll come back and share it with us.
Of course. We'll have to get an update on if my process changed at all.
Yeah, absolutely, because it does for everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.